Business and Leading Change. My name is Marissa Harshman. I'm a health reporter at the Columbian. Wanting to introduce your moderator for this panel, Gail Castillo. Gail co-founded the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber in 1994 and became its president in 2001, a role she continues to hold today. In that role, she expanded the Portland-based chamber's presence by establishing 2 new offices in Beaverton and Vancouver. So here is Gail.
Wonderful. Good morning. So we have, as you know, based on the program that you have, 4 outstanding women. I'm just going to briefly mention their name and title, but you're going to hear a lot more from them. We have Gail Beuk, owner of Beacock Music. Lisa Schauer, is that correct?
Like rain showers.
Schauer, okay. Lisa Schauer, Vice President Business Development at Mackay-Sposito. Carmen Nazario, President and CEO of ELYON International, and Deena Pierott, CEO Mosaic Blueprint and Urban Teen, and they'll all talk about this, more about their organizations, their products, and their services. So this is kind of the format that we agreed on. We're going to have each individual briefly talk about what their company is, their product or their service. They're going to talk about what their challenges have been and talk about how they have addressed those challenges. This has to do with change. All of us are changing. And then what recommendations do they have for other businesses based on their own experience? And then I'm going to have a follow-up question, and then we're going to have questions from the audience, from you. So I think perhaps there are forms. Are there forms available for them? Excuse me. Are there forms available for them to fill out for questions, or shall I just do this? Okay, just do that. Okay, so we want to have you out of here by 10 a.m. because I know you're all very busy people. So with no further delay, we're going to have Gail speak.
Okay. Does this come out?
Yes, it does.
I would actually. You'd think I'd know how to work a microphone, right? Good morning, everyone. My name is Gail Beuk from Beacock Music here in Vancouver, and I'm going to talk fast because I have not very much time for me, and I have a lot I'd like to say. There's hardly anything I enjoy telling anybody about more than our business. I love the game of the business. I love our industry. I mean, how lucky am I that I am in the music industry? I mean, there's not a person on the planet that doesn't either participate in, love, listen to, dance, whatever, with music. So the joy for me is trying to figure out ways to create more music makers in the world every single day. That's my job, and it's a wonderful, wonderful job. We are a family-based music store owned. My brother and I co-own it now, and our parents started it. I'm going to actually say they started it before I was born, because Russ and I, who's my brother, he's 1 year younger than I am, but I'm bossier. He and I really grew up in this business before the business was physically born. Our parents were both teachers, music teachers, school teachers, performers themselves. I grew up in a wonderfully chaotic, noisy environment. Our dad taught music lessons in the bedroom right next to ours, and everything from trumpets to saxophones to drums to piccolos to violins were in the next room having lessons till 9 p.m. at night, where middle school and high schoolers were in our living room, where I was asking them for help with homework. And it was really weird. I thought everybody did that. So by the time we got to junior high, our parents said, we might want to move this somewhere else. So Beacock Music Studios was physically born in the little Park Hill Shopping Center up on Mill Plain. Anybody remember that one? Yep. We were right next to the cafe, Rosie's Cafe, and we had the smell of that bacon grease in our studios for years and years to come. I still smell it. I think it's still in my hair. It was a wonderful, wonderful existence, and we started with 2 studios, and we opened the store at 2 o'clock in the afternoon after they finished teaching. So it was, our whole business today was born on music education, and that's important because we are still that is still our core business, is music education. So through the years, one of our little nuggets is that we grew very slowly. We sort of took over a little bit more and a little bit more. My dad's philosophy was always buy one thing, sell one thing and buy one more. And that's how we grew the business over years. We will be celebrating 40 years this September, so we're really proud of that. Thank you. It has been a long process, but a very rewarding, and I know you're looking, don't look at your watch. Oh, okay. So our business, born on music education, evolved very slowly. And like most music store owners, it grew out of the love they had for what they love to do. And we are not a family of MBAs or business majors. We're all music geeks. We're music majors and communication majors and education majors. So I think that's kind of interesting. Everything we have learned has literally been by the skin of our teeth. And we made a lot of mistakes, and we've done a lot of really good things along the way too. One of the things that we kind of go on still to this day is the fact that we've never really chased the success of a business. We've never really chased the money. We've always tried to create more music makers and do the right thing, and we've always believed that the rest would follow. And I think that's a really important concept that our parents kind of instilled in us, and Russ and I, to this day, we operate on that same philosophy. I want to talk a little bit about our history and then our challenges. So, okay, I know I'm talking so fast because I really want to get all this out, and they always rip the microphone out from me too soon. Okay, so you guys wanted to talk today, didn't you? Yeah. Okay. As we slowly grew, because as you know, as lessons, folks came in for music lessons, well, they needed things. They needed reeds. They needed a better instrument. They needed things. So we said, well, maybe it's going to be more than just studios. So that's how we sort of built our inventory very, very slowly. As people asked, we would sell one, buy one, as I mentioned. So this grew, and this grew, and then we sort of took over the next little spot. Anybody remember Shield Sporting Goods? Reader's Drugs, there was a Minute Mart up there, and then finally we added on to that. So we had kind of a piecemeal sort of a business going. When we built our add-on in the education center, something happened. Our business sort of changed. It sort of morphed into something that we had always dreamed it would be. People want to play music. You know, kids still want to play music in band. And that was our little nugget. We then decided, okay, we need to move. We need to build a music store for us, our own building, and for what we want to do. People thought it was nuts. It was 10 years ago. It'll be 10 years ago this July. And people thought we were nuts because you guys remember what the economy was doing 10 years ago. It wasn't the most opportune time to buy and build a building. And it's 20,000 square feet, so it's a big building. We did that going back to do what you think you know is going to be right for you. And we did. We just went for it. We just knew that people would support us here. And they did. So 10 years ago, retail was good. Walk-in traffic, we are a destination place. People have to drive to our business. There's nothing else around us. If they're coming to your store, they're driving to your store for a reason. So a destination business has its own challenges. You know, you're not getting any drive-by things. In those days, it was good. Our business went from here to here. All of a sudden, we had a lot more products. We had a much prettier building. We had more employees. We had more offerings. We had more products, so business was really good. As the years have gone by, the retail environment has really, really changed. It's tougher to get people to come in your store. So what do we do to get people to still come in and support that big building? I always joke because everybody in our industry said, you know, retail's dead. Retail's dead. We're going to have to just do it all online. Well, my brother's response to that was, not if you don't suck. If you don't suck, they're still going to come in. That he says that it's on his wall. You have to be so good. So we have an environment that is energetic. If any of you have been in our store, we wanted to have just the neatest music store you've ever been in. If you come in, from the people to the displays, to the environment, to the cafe, we have coffee in there. We wanted to create something. The next thing, so that's a challenge, that retail environment. So that's one thing we did to kind of keep people from to come in. The other thing we did is we had to create a new market. So what do we get people to come in? Well, we thought maybe senior citizens who haven't played music in 30 plus years would be interested in taking their old clarinet or their own saxophone or their own drum set out of storage or out of underneath their bed. So we created a New Horizons band for senior citizens, and we created classes for homeschool. And what does that do? That brings people in. That brings people in every single day. So you're creating that excitement, that environment, rather than just putting out your open sign and waiting for people to come in. It just doesn't happen anymore. It's just different. The challenge for us is we have always been, how am I doing? How much time do I have? 1 minute, oh Lord. Okay, one of the challenges that we really have is our small industry is overtaken now by big people. You know, real invest companies that have fantastic websites and fantastic, there's chains now, and that's new in the last 10 years or so, where they've been so dynamic. We have to compete with that. Our challenges is we have to be better, and we have to tell our story. We are really big into music education in the schools, and in order to, like I said, thank goodness kids still want to play music in the schools, we've had to figure out how to create those markets. We created a step-up night where we bring out instruments to the schools, and we are out on the road. We don't wait for them to come in, we go out there. And we have a school services division like none other in the country. And we're really, really proud of that, really proud of that. That's where the action is. So we have people coming in, and we are going out. And that's kind of the key there. Some last-minute food for thought that has really served us well is pardon the pun, the bandwagon. You know the old bandwagon thing? We've never jumped on any bandwagon except our own. You know, it's like in a small industry, we all talk, and it's probably similar in a lot of industries. You go to a convention, and it's like, okay, here's what the new thing is, except if you're us, because we never really did that. We sort of did our own thing. I think it's really interesting to know what's going on. You know, we really pay attention, read the papers, and we know what's going on. And then we go, okay, now we're doing our thing. How do we create more music makers? How do we create more music makers? That's how we conduct our life day to day. Websites, no matter how big or small you are, you have to have a website now. Just, if nothing else, but for credibility, because everybody's hopping on. And the days of the old music store where they don't have a website and you go into the back room and you teach a lesson by who knows who, those days are just gone in our industry too, if you want to grow. And we are in growth mode. We are going after it. We are going to grow. We're going to create our own markets if we have to, which we are. And we just know that people want to play music, right? You all want to play music. If you don't play something, you wish you did. I know. That's the truth. Yeah. So I'm going to leave you just with that. Do your own thing. We have always just tried to do the right thing, and the rest will happen. And owner involvement, I will say that too. My brother and I are there every single day, and we are so involved. We know what's going on. And we're at a point now, we have 75 employees in our new building, and we're at that point now where we've got great people, but we can't, it's like how much do you leave? How much do you guide? We're also a really big believer in sharing. We share our numbers. We are a for-profit organization. We have a lot of people to pay every 2 weeks. And if they don't know where we are and where we're trying to go, how are they going to help us get there? So we share. We're an open book. We share numbers, we share goals, we share where we are, we share where we need to improve, and we're very communicative that way, and that has really, really propelled our business to the next level. I'm going to let someone else talk, and thank you so much.
I think I'm going to go up to the podium. I think that will. I tend to talk with my hands, so I don't want to. Anyone? Hi, my name is Lisa Schauer, and I am one of the majority partners at Mackay-Sposito. Mackay-Sposito is a civil engineering, land surveying, and construction management firm. We have 4 offices in Washington State, and we have boots on the ground from Alaska and Hawaii all the way over to Montana and Wyoming. Probably important to also mention I'm the only non-engineer, non-surveyor in our partner group. So I bring a little different diversity to that group. One of the things that I wanted to share, growing a business and leading change is it's hard work. And so over the last 6 years, our business has realized significant growth and significant changes. Professional services, which is billing time, so our revenue is built around every billable hour that we're able to bill. We've found there's always a balancing act. So do we have enough projects to keep our workforce busy? Do we have too many projects so we don't have enough workforce? Do we keep our clients happy and then at the same time we worry about too much client concentration? And how do we grow to new markets and geographically have boots on the ground and then the right leadership structure to support that? So turns out running a professional services firm is hard work. So what we have seen in terms of growth is very significant. So our firm over the last 6 years has realized 270% growth, which is significant. And so there's been a lot of learning that has happened over the last few years, and I thought it would be important to share a little bit with you about some of those lessons that we've learned. And certainly it's not all those lessons, but 3 that kind of ring true for me include workforce strategies. So in the piece that I prepared that is in your Columbian loose leaf flyer, I really focused on education. So we are very committed and active advocates for education as the key to keeping and to building a workforce that will continue to serve our community in the future. You know, there are a lot of reasons why our nation needs engineers, whether it be our aging infrastructure and the massive safety implications of not paying attention to that infrastructure and being proactive, or barriers to affordable housing, the use of electricity and how we get electricity onto the grid and help the utilities to be able to do that in a way that's quick and meets the needs of our nation. Those problems, and those are certainly only a few, those problems will be solved by engineers, by people that are a part of the STEM industry. And what we're finding is that with the baby boomers retiring, we don't have as many coming in, like many industries, graduating from technical programs or degreed programs to be able to meet that pace. What we are seeing, though, and what I am very proud of in this community is the amount of STEM programs. In elementary, middle, high school, I am extremely excited about Clark College's continued commitment to our land surveying program. I am excited about WSU Vancouver's commitment to engineering. These are all elements that help us to have a ready workforce. Now, at Mackay-Sposito, I mentioned we have 4 offices in Washington State, and one of the things that we try to do as part of our workforce strategy to keep that talent that we have so that we don't lose talent when there is a shortage of engineers and surveyors and construction managers is to provide flexibility, choices. We have suburban settings, anywhere from Kennewick to urban settings like Federal Way, Washington. So we are encouraging our employees, if there's a better place for you and your family, because any one of these choices are so tied together, personal and professional, then we have those urban settings and we have those suburban settings so that hopefully geographically they find something that they need and they want while continuing to stay at Mackay-Sposito, which is our first and primary hope. One of the things that I did mention as part of the problems with STEM in what I put together for the Columbian was the lack of women in engineering. And so our firm is reflective of that, and we have not been able to, in the 42 years that we've been in business, have more than 2 licensed professional surveyors or more than 2 licensed professional engineers at any time in our firm, which it hasn't been for lack of trying. We believe that having diverse voices helps us to be stronger. And so I'm hoping that as we see changes and we see that STEM is really very top of mind, like we're experiencing with elementary, middle, and high school programs, that we will start to see more of those engineers and surveyors to come out of education and technical programs, and hopefully some more that are women. As far as a forecast for what I'm seeing in terms of STEM, one thing that I wanted to mention is in November of last year, Forbes put out an article about STEM, and girls are now saying that of the top 5 professions that they want to be in, 3 out of those 5 are STEM professions, which is really exciting. Now, there's good news for the boys, too. So they're saying their number 4 top pick is engineers. So it was exciting to see that on a national level, we're seeing girls and we're seeing boys that are seeing STEM as being so instrumental in what they want to do when they grow up. The second business challenge that I wanted to mention was related to a business model built for growth. So we have grown, and we've grown significantly. I mentioned our 270% growth. Having a corporate infrastructure that was ready for that growth probably wasn't in place as much as now today we understand it needed to be in place. So we hit the snooze alarm on some of those infrastructure investments, whether it be the right corporate compliance or controls, or even just down to accounting software, which can be very expensive. Not having that in place when we grew and we stretched, we're not only growing, but we're also trying to put all of those measures in place to support that growth as we stretch. So during the recession, one of the keys for us in terms of being able to grow was transitioning from private and local municipal work to federal work, which is fabulous. So the federal government pays within 30 days, which is fantastic, but there are a lot of strings that are attached with working for the federal government, and not understanding that, not knowing that, is pretty significant. So if I have a warning out there, if I were looking in the rearview mirror, I would say know what you're getting into if you make that transition to federal contractor status, because the infrastructure needed to be able to support that is pretty significant and is a switch. As a private company, you're having to do things that are really reflective of the political climate. So you're seeing the White House or Congress make decisions about how you have to implement certain benefits and policies and prevailing wage within your business. You need to have the infrastructure in place to be able to do that and report out so that you are in compliance. So my warning is just know what you're getting into. The third point that I would make about our business growing and changing is about leadership and the evolving leaders. So probably one of my biggest challenges is, how do I continue to stay relevant? How do I not let the business outpace me and my contribution? And that's difficult because the contribution I made in the past might have been really extremely worthwhile and I filled a gap. But what contribution am I making today? And what contribution am I making in my business in the future? And how do I stay at least in parallel and on path, if not in front of my business? Because my business isn't going to go where I'm not already. So that's been one of the challenges that we've faced in trying to really utilize digital communications and social media, and technology is changing rapidly. How do I personally stay on top of that, and how do I allow my business to thrive within that environment and be dynamic and change enough? So my unsolicited advice, business owner to business owner, would be don't let your business outpace you. And you can be your own worst limitation to growth if you don't embrace change. So ensuring you remain relevant and you continue to reinvent yourself is important. I saw a quote that I thought was really appropriate. John Maxwell said, if we are growing, we're always going to be out of our comfort zone. And so I would say over the last 6 years, my partners and I have a partner here today, have experienced some wonderful peaks, some celebrations, and some successes that we were so excited about. And then at the same time, I think we have also experienced extreme discomfort. So growing is good, but recognize you're going to probably be uncomfortable. So with that, thank you.
I'm going to follow Lisa's lead and come out here as well. Great. Good morning. I'm Carmen Nazario, President and CEO of ELYON International. ELYON International is a management consulting company that specializes in information technology services, GIS, which stands for Geographic Information Systems, and professional services. I started the company 18 years ago. My background was software development and project management, and I started the company out of my home, but I had big vision because I called it international. I wanted to do international business. And so when I started the company, I was the employee of the corporation and did that for about a year. And then I realized I'm not going to grow the company if I'm doing the work myself. So that was my first challenge in business. And I had to really take a step of faith and get out to start marketing the company. My company grew very slow. I was it for quite a while. And at the time I started, I was a single mom too, so I didn't have any big financial resources to make my company grow real quick. But I slowly and consistently worked very hard to grow the company. My first customer was Fred Meyer, and after that, I was able to generate some larger contracts. In my industry is very competitive. There are so many competitors from India and other countries, so that is one of my, has been throughout my business, one of my biggest challenges is the competition. And so I've had to compete with large companies like Microsoft. For instance, we're an approved vendor with the state of Washington and with the federal government, but there's also a lot of other vendors that do the same thing I do. So you really have to stand out and do the best quality possible. And that was one of the reasons for starting my company, because I used to be a consultant working for the customers, and I thought that I could deliver a better product and treat my employees good, treat the customer good, which is really the baseline of my business. If you treat your customers well and deliver quality services and treat your employees well, everything falls into place. So as of today, I've grown the company to approximately 100 people. We are doing international business on a small scale, but that's always a good start. And we are working in 7 states. And we have diversified our business, and I expect continued growth. Technology plays a big factor in that, and even though I'm technical, I am not the expert anymore, and I have to rely on specific expertise. And now it's grown into, with the cloud services, there's people, professionals called now cloud brokers, now, and where that never even existed a few years ago. So it really requires that I stay on top of technology, and we network a lot. We work with the federal government a lot, so I can provide advice on that. 90% of our work is with the federal government. At the moment, we're expanding into the commercial sector. We work with the state of Oregon, with the cities. And so what Lisa referred to in terms of working with the federal government is true. It's a long sell cycle, whereas in the commercial, sometimes you can go do a presentation and then do a proposal and you can get in a little quicker. In terms of offering advice, I can tell you that I have taken advantage of every service out there for small business, through the Small Business Administration, through the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, through other organizations. Networking is key. Attending national conferences, local conferences, regional conferences. That's what's made a difference in terms of growing my business, and not only that, but gleaning from other professionals and gleaning from other business owners as well. And so I brought some flyers and business cards, and at the end, and anyone's welcome to them. Thank you.
Great.
So I'm going to be a little bit different, okay? Because I always got to go against what everybody else does. That's part of my rebelness. I'm going to sit here and talk. Hope you guys don't mind. Plus, my feet hurt. So, truth be told, I am Deena Pierott, and I am a crazy woman, but I'm what's called a social entrepreneur. So everything that I do, thank you, everything that I do is to have some type of positive effect to individuals, to communities, and especially to youth. So one of my companies that I first started is called Mosaic Blueprint. It's a diversity recruiting and consulting and branding company. That's about 7 years old now, and I have a job board. I call it a mini monster wannabe because it's still like in the baby stages and stuff. So what happens with that is companies who are looking for diverse talent, they post their jobs on Mosaic Métier. And then I also have a program that I do every year called the Urban Spark Business Summit. That is something I do in partnership with Mercy Corps Northwest over in Portland once a year. It's a one-day summit for women and multicultural business owners. I don't say minority businesses because I don't want to feel like I'm something less than. So I use the term multicultural business owners, and everyone knows who that is. But it's a full-day blitz just for us, for women and all, to understand and share knowledge about business and getting into business and being that support mechanism for each other. The other program that I have is that I started in Portland is called the Portland Metro Diversity Employment Network. That's a network of about 100 HR managers and corporate recruiters where we talk about diversity recruiting, onboarding, and retention strategies. When I started it about 1.5 years ago, I told just a handful of my HR friends, I said, apparently you guys aren't doing something right with diversity recruiting because I don't see the numbers changing. Yes, I have a diversity recruiting company, but I'm not here to pimp you. I have 2 African-American sons, and I want them to have fair and equitable opportunities like everybody else. So if I got to show you guys how to do this, this is what we're going to do. So that handful of people, 8 of them, has now grown to over 100. We meet every month, and we have real conversations about this. Race can be a difficult topic for people, but we try to make it in a space that's comfortable where we can talk about it and make some crucial solutions or initiatives to shake this up a little bit. So I'm very proud of where that's gone, and it's free, totally free for the companies to participate. That's both here in Vancouver and in Portland. The program that I'm passionate about all of it. And apparently you guys can see I'm passionate about diversity, inclusion, and equity. And I tell people, you can have all diversity in the world, but if you don't have inclusion, you can hire me to work for your company, but if my voice isn't at the table helping to make some of these decisions and policies, then it's futile. You know, you're just adding numbers, not value. So I was apparently the little kid on the playground that made sure everybody wanted to play. That was me. I wanted to make sure everybody was included. It didn't matter who you were. Some of my strongest allies in this whole effort are white men. And everyone wants to point their finger at them about being the barrier for all of this. But for me, I have had white male friends who have fought the good fight like me and has been ostracized because of it, because they were voicing their opinion for the good of others. So everyone is a part of this whole equity and inclusion umbrella. The program that I spend about 98% of my time on is a youth program, STEM plus arts program called iUrban Teen. I started, and I was going to go back on why I even started, and I'll talk about some of the challenges in this. But I was a commissioner here in the state of Washington on Governor Gregoire's Commission on African American Affairs. And all of our ethnic commissions were talking about what they called then the achievement gap, which is now the opportunity gap issue, especially for male youth of color, African American, Latino, Native American males that were dropping through the cracks, disengaging, being incarcerated, etc. I'm not one to sit back and talk forever about something. I'm more action-oriented. People know this about me. I move quickly for change, and it's been effective change. So around that same time, I was asked to participate on a Chief Information Officer Council in Portland. And the very first day I went to the meeting, I opened the door late as usual. I'm always walking. They're like, Deena, we were scared you weren't going to show up. I'm like, I'll show up. I'm always late, but I'm showing up. But I walked into the room, and it was a room full of just white men. There were 2 white women in the room, but they were standing against the wall in the back. So I stopped the meeting and I went up to the front and told the guys, move over so I can get a chair here. And they looked up and they're like, okay, whatever. And so I sat there in the front and I started instantly engaging. And that's what I tell women and multicultural business owners and individuals, engage. Don't just come in and sit in the back of the room and be invisible. Have your voice, show up. Let them see you. Let them see that you're engaged in this. So I was asking questions that I already knew the answers to, but I wanted to show them I'm a part of this club too. So while in that meeting, I realized, okay, there's no diversity in here. Yet and still we have these male youth of color falling through the cracks. How do I bridge this divide and create something that can create that spark to show them to go into technology, STEM, all of this wonderful career opportunities? And that's when I came up with iUrban Teen. I had my very first summit at WSU Vancouver, so it all started here in Vancouver. We had about 150 youth, and some of their families came in, an eclectic group of African American, Latino, white youth, girls, everybody came. I don't turn away any child from our program. Yes, our intentional outreach is male youth of color, but we have about 35% girls. We have youth with disabilities, Asperger's, and autism. We have low opportunity white youth in the program as well. But after that first one, I knew I had created something magical because I can see this spark in their eyes once we started our programs and our workshops, and I knew that I had to work quickly to try to grab them. So that was October 2011. Since then, we have grown to be in every major West Coast city. We're in Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and we're expected to launch in 3 more cities this year, followed in 2017 by 3 more, and even Australia for Aborigine children. Round of applause right there, you guys. Yeah. And see, I'm bossy too. I'm like, okay, you guys clap. Okay, you guys. And I'm teaching my granddaughter to be the same way too, bless her heart. But the thing is too, besides that, and I'm so thankful for my Vancouver community because of not only our growth, this program that started right here in Vancouver, I was actually honored in the White House for this program as a White House Champion of Change for Technology Inclusion. I've been back there twice and going back again this year. I'm in partnership with the Smithsonian and Shell Oil for trying to get more diverse youth into STEM teaching careers. So I'm consistently flying back and forth to DC. Tonight, after this, I'm driving up to Seattle to speak at University of Washington, their Seattle campus, on resilient leadership, and some of the challenges I've had to endure with bringing this program forward. And also, we're having our second year at Cal State Dominguez Hills as our STEM Summit in Los Angeles on Saturday, tomorrow, and then on Friday is our Intel Day for our kids. So I'm busy with this program. One of my challenges, there's several challenges. One is trying to show, has been over the years, trying to show these companies and municipalities how important this work is. We have been doing this we've served 3,600 youth, unfunded, no money. At this pace, the pace that we're growing, we have to get the funding to do capacity building. I'm a volunteer for this program. And now that's changing now because I think that you get to this tipping point where then it just takes over. So now our partners in this, who has just put us into their funding cycle, is Google, Microsoft, Intel, Amazon. In fact, the innovation director for Amazon is our chair of our Seattle Council in Seattle. And we also have IBM, NASA, and and Intel. So all of them now, all of a sudden, it just happened. They understand the importance. Disney reached out to me and said, we need to create a diverse talent pipeline in animation, and you've got it. What do we need to do to be a partner? So it's finally, after 4 years, almost 5 years of growing this thing and doing it on nothing, but still giving first-class quality programming to these youth that aren't used to these kind of experiences. I always feel that if there's a will, there's a way. And I never wanted money to be an obstacle in the reasons why I didn't do anything for them. So I'm very glad that I did that. As far as business owners, I know it's just like, okay, it's time. But, but for some of the things that I would say, how I navigated through it, I knew how to network. I knew that I needed allies. I knew that I had to break out of my comfort zone, which is my own just staying in the African American community. I needed to reach out to individuals in other communities to help me with this and be very open and honest with, I need you to sponsor me. This is the help that I need. A lot of times we, especially women of color, we feel like we can't do that or we're afraid to do that. So a lot of times I teach women of color on how do you get out there and how do you have your voice heard for the success of your business. Thank you.
Thank you. So before I open it up to questions from the audience, I've been asked to ask you, and so I would just ask you to respond as you wish. What do you see as some of the advantages for some of you are operating internationally, nationally? What are some of the advantages of operating your businesses in Vancouver? Anyone of you can respond to that. You want to respond? Sure.
I would say that this, for me, and I worked for the city of Portland forever, for 16 years, and even though I lived in Vancouver, everything I did was in Oregon. It wasn't until, and sometimes you have to look at being downsized as a blessing. So when I was downsized and started my business here in Vancouver, I saw how easy it was for me to navigate through to the city council, to the Clark County folks and other businesses, and even up in Olympia. It was easier navigating through those and getting the support that I needed to launch. Urban Teen, it was no problem, a no-brainer to launch here. So I think this is a great environment to start your business.
Anyone else would like to respond to that?
So I'll just respond. I really don't have anything new to add other than what was shared earlier. It's taxes, it's education, it's a great place to live. We can have employees that can have families that thrive here. So we would not move our headquarters at all from Vancouver. This is where we want to be.
Well, my answer is very unsophisticated, but it's my home, it's our roots, it's where our family grew up, it's where I grew up, it's our history. So when you have that history, it kind of invests you in the community more, and then you know all the players, you know all the schools and all the band directors and that sort of thing. I will say that one of the challenges going forward is that the Oregon tax break for Oregon buyers issue comes up periodically here in Vancouver, and there are certain council people that are pushing for a Oregon taxpayers have to pay tax. We sell high-ticket products. We have a Barry saxophone on the floor that might be $10,000. That would kill our business. So we look at that very closely, and if that changes in the future, we will have to make a change and probably open an Oregon location.
Carmen, did you want to say anything?
Yes, and I would say I am local, so it was low stress deciding to start your business here. I commuted to Portland as a professional for over 20 years. Vancouver, our offices are in downtown Vancouver. We're right off the freeway. We're close to the airport. We have business in Seattle. We commute to Seattle. We have business in Oregon, so that's an ideal location. And then there's the sentimental aspect for Vancouver, the Hudson Trading Post. That was the cradle of commerce here in the Pacific Northwest. So I like to embrace that and think, oh, okay, we're just gonna expand from the cradle of commerce from the Pacific Northwest.
So on the flip side of that, do any of you see any disadvantages for having your business located in Vancouver?
So I'll just speak to the local competitive market. So I think, Carmen, you mentioned professional services is very competitive, and getting work in Oregon is hard if you're not in Oregon. And so we've really invested, like I said, in Washington, but the competition and bringing Oregon firms to Washington to compete for our work here locally, as well as trying to go over there, has been a bit of a challenge to be local enough. So.
Okay, anyone else want to comment? You don't have to if you don't want to. Okay, so I guess I would open it up to anyone in the audience that would like to ask a question to our panelists. Sure. I can give you one of those so that
Thank you.
the videotape catches your lovely voice.
Thank you. Name's Kevin, and I am a founder of a local digital marketing agency who's been growing fairly quickly over the last 6 years. We were both in the Vancouver Business Journal Growth Awards at one time. So my question is to, you ladies have had organizations, companies that have grown very quickly. And so as you're growing, there comes those tough decisions when you're looking at balancing the needs and the health of the company from a profitability and margin standpoint, and then looking at acquiring, in my case, it's really I looking at the right people. When I find the right person, it's like, hey, what can I do to make this happen? I want to bring this right person here, because that's, like, to us, it's the most important thing is the people. So if you could share any kind of situations or that came up within your organizations as you've grown and how you've had to make those decisions and what you did for balancing the health and financial stability of the company with investing in the future of the company.
I bet we all have something to say on that topic. That's a good one. Excellent question. I like that question because it kind of hits home for me personally. My brother and I, who is my business partner, as I said, he and I always say a family business can be really challenging. How do you make that work? But in our case, that is actually an advantage because he is a slow growth thinker, mulls it over really slowly, and I am let's do it now. If it doesn't work, we can fix it. So we always say that if it were up to him, we'd still be down by Rosie's with the bacon. If it were up to me, I would go bankrupt. So it takes we'd be gone. So it takes that balance, and for us, it takes two people to get that balance. And if you don't have that balance is just key, because I think a lot of it is instinctual. I think a lot of it is knowing your market and just your complete mission. And it's so easy to get off track, really easy to get off track on, that's a shiny object. I'm going to go try that. Maybe that's the thing. That is our biggest challenge, is focusing on what you are really trying to do and then managing that growth at the same time, pushing yourself slightly. But you have to remain, financially, fiscally healthy along the way. And we have seen many small business without the capital to fund all these great ideas disintegrate right before your very eyes. So for us, it's instinctual. It takes both of us to kind of talk that over. And I don't know, I'll pass that on and see what other thoughts are on the panel.
Well, you could have been in our office and had some of those conversations. So we have very similar growth, stretch, pull, and push. And so while I think there are some that would be happy staying small because it's less risk, then occasionally a little purple-haired idea where we pull ourselves out of our comfort zone is good. But to your point, I think hire for talent is always worth investing in. And so we've tried to do that, and sometimes we've done it a little early, but we've always learned something in that experience, and they've brought something unique that we didn't have. So I don't think you can ever go wrong. And it also then pushes you to make sure that you have all the other right players on the team too. So great question.
So in terms of growing and bringing in the right people, I certainly had that challenge for many years, and I tried different models. The first model I tried was to bring somebody that was recommended and then I knew professionally and train them to do marketing to the federal government. And that didn't work. Then I hired consultants. I was trying to market primarily in the East Coast because that was where my target market was for IT to federal government. And that model didn't work. So it took me a while, but I did finally find somebody who had the expertise I needed. And I interviewed him in different settings. I had friends of mine interview him. I had the current staff I had interview him, and he's now the vice president. He's done really great. And he had a federal experience working for Lockheed Martin. So he used to engage small business for subcontracts, which is required by federal government procurement standards. There's so much percent of contracts that has to go to small business. So that model worked for me. And even now, so there's two ways to look at it. In certain aspects, like recently last year, we hired somebody in Missouri who had worked for us on one of our federal programs, and we started training her to manage that program. So in that instance, she didn't have the management experience, but after a year, she is doing excellent. We've trained her, and now we have also hired somebody else to do business development in the Pacific Northwest on the commercial end, and we're training them. So there's, different approaches and models. And does that answer your question, or was there a second part to the question?
I think it addresses it to a good extent. It's one of those things where it's always a challenge when you're looking at it. You're like, I really want, all these players on the chessboard, right? When you're looking at it, you're like, hey, I really want to get these people here, but then you're looking at margins and you're like, I'm very positive that we're going to do this, but, I have to take our clients, our employees into consideration.
Right. And let me just add on to that. This year, I had an internship for Portland State. I graduated from Portland State, and it was a financial analyst, a diverse student, and I brought him in. See, I don't have a financial analyst. I use my CPA to do our work, but then we have somebody doing our books internally. But in terms of, quote, financial analysis, those people are really expensive, and I don't have that need right now to have a controller. But he did wonderful, and so I've retained him. And out of that experience, he got another job, so he's really excited about that. And so there's different ways you can look. You could also get, because it is expensive to bring in top caliber people. So there's that balancing act where you need to have retained earnings for continued growth and then also bring in the right expertise. It's a real balancing act, yeah.
And I would say that, your human capital can make or break your company. One of the things that I didn't want to do when I left the working world was manage people. And a lot of times I find myself in my organization, Urban Teen, managing people, and that's not the best use of my time. So we're still ramping up and trying to find that right magic number and personality fits that is going to help grow this program. I always tell people, you got to find people that share your rhythm. I move extremely fast, lightning fast, crazy fast. I do. I work extremely fast, but I think things through. I already know what may work, what can go wrong, what do I need to do if it goes wrong. I think those things through if I launch something. People can't keep up with me a lot of times. Unfortunately, those are the people that I had all around me. So I was saying, okay, tie your shoe, now take 2 steps to the left. I don't have time for that. So just now I'm finding those people, those vanguards, those innovators that get it, those creative types. But I still need the analytical types that are going to help build that infrastructure. So now we're starting to get that system, the right mix of people in place to grow this program. We're still a startup, and so that's my challenge, is finding those people that share that rhythm. and having someone else manage them, not me.
Very quickly, it's interesting because I feel like the most important thing I do every day is manage people. And if I don't manage the people, I'm in big trouble. So kind of opposite of your philosophy, I don't think there's anything more important that I can do. At the same time, another, on your point earlier, it's interesting when you hire people for a job and then they get in that job, you get stuck in that, okay, this person is A. And 4 months down the road, you wonder why they're not as effective as you would hoped. Well, they really need to be in slot B or C, and that is going to be where they're going to thrive. And so it's important to keep that your head open to where are their talents. You hire people for one thing and they turn out to be so good at something else that you didn't even know. And you're like, oh my gosh, had I not recognized that, or if they had not told me that, I would have missed that whole thing. So that's hard for me. Sometimes I just get so stuck in this, and to kind of open that up and say, hey, this person would be awesome at something completely different, but in the company.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. We have about 8 minutes left. Is there another question that someone has? No? Yes?
First of all, thank you for being here. And on the follow-up on your question about, you mentioned that, you didn't have the people around you that and I'm in that place right now, I'll admit. And how do you, and it sometimes saddens me because it's people that I'm, my place, color, women. And I've attempted to, when I see those in the individual cases, to change that. But, it's that complacency. I don't know. What continues to motivate you to continue doing that for your circle of influence that is in that realm?
Because it's hard work. I mean, it drains you. It really does. And I think that's why I like working with the youth. So the youth is what inspires me. Because I know that these young men and these young women are going to be our age at some point. And if I can help create a golden pathway for them, then I've done my job. But at the same time, when I see their parents come in with them, because we're a very family-oriented program, in fact, when I took our kids to Google down in LA, and we had some parents and a grandma and a little baby brother there. Well, in our African American and Latino communities, family first. So they are invited to everything. But when I see the parents come in, and a lot of times they don't have jobs, or they are under, paid for the work that they do, I try to motivate them to think about elevating their game or becoming a business owner. So I continually do that. That's what keeps me motivated when I see these opportunities. But if I work with you and I see that you're not moving forward, I'm going to keep going someplace else. Everyone has to be responsible for their growth.
So you don't all have to respond if you don't want to. So if you don't respond to her question, are there any closing comments that any of you would like to make to the audience? Any suggestions, any thoughts, final thoughts? We'll start with you, Gail. I know you have an idea.
Well, I know we all represent varying different businesses, and I think one of the most important things, no matter what business we're in, is how do you stand out? How do you make yourself, you use the word relevant, which I love, and we use that every day. How are we still relevant as a retail music store in a world that price is transparent? The price doesn't matter anymore. The whole world has the same price, where the products are the same model number. Where is your relevancy going to come from, and your personality? And that's where this game starts. And there's 1 million independent music stores in the country. So what makes you special? And that's the question that we are just asking ourselves every single day. What makes us different, better, stand out? Why would they come to us when they can just Google that model number and it comes the next day? So that is the trick. And that is the question with any business you do. the answer that you have to come up with. And every single day, that is what we're asking ourselves. And every single day, we're trying to get better and better and better at that and more focused. And my last closing thought, I promise, is I don't believe we can be afraid to tell others our story and why we are the right choice for them. And sometimes you think they know. You know, we're visiting these schools every single day, and then all of a sudden I walk in and there's a brand new something or something that they ordered online. I have a story to tell, and I have to educate them on why they need to be doing business with us, flat out and simple, even though it seems obvious. So that fight will never end. That goes on and on and on, and you can't be shy. Can't be shy about what you have to offer and what your specialness is. And then you have to be darn good, better than good. You have to be extraordinary. And the hard part of being extraordinary is doing it consistently. It's everybody can be an extraordinary for a day or a week or a month or even a year, but it's doing it every day, day after day, and keeping that energy up. The energy and the enthusiasm is what will propel you, and that's all we got, folks. That's it. The rest of it, everybody else can do the rest of it. That's the trick, in my humble opinion.
That's good.
So I would just say embrace the purple-haired ideas. So I am different than my engineering partners, and I think that's a positive thing. Surround yourself with other innovators, other folks that help feed that purple-haired idea, because I think that innovation does not occur unless we're not stretching ourselves to change and then embracing it. So that would be my closing thoughts.
That's great. I'm kind of learning from my counterparts here. It would be hard to say, how many are business owners here? How many are contemplating starting a business? Okay, so usually, you know, I like to address, you know, understand who my audience is. But I have to say ditto to what the two ladies just said. I would, you know, certainly say that that's really important. And I think today it's so easy to start a business. In the sense, easy in the sense that so many people are daring to do that. And I collect little articles from the newspaper on all of these innovators. The other day, I collected one on somebody who did like this tent with umbrellas. And I wanted to start a scrapbook because my passion is to encourage people in that area. And especially the young people, they're more daring. Of course, they're really savvy in terms of technology. So I would just say, dare to step out and take courage. That's my closing thoughts.
Yeah, I got my cue. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Again, social entrepreneurialism. Think about what you can do for your community. Think about how we can embrace and grow Southwest Washington. Think about if you are a successful business owner or just individual, learn the difference between mentoring someone and sponsoring someone, especially when you're looking at women and women of color or any multicultural businesses in the workplace. How can you sponsor them? That can mean a world of difference to everyone. So sponsor, network, sponsor. Thank you.
And with that, I want to thank our panelists for taking your time to be with us. We know that you're very busy trying to be relevant and trying to be exceptional. So thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us this morning.
Thank you.